Bengals versus Chiefs, the AFC Conference Championship. A Super Bowl berth is on the line. Right now, the Chiefs sitting as 7-point favorites, over under 54 points. I got my favorite player prop, spread pick, and same game parlay coming your guys' way. Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Austin from Calling Our Shot, and welcome aboard to the Calling Our Shot channel if you guys are new. If you are, consider clicking that subscribe button down below. We're trying to hit 22,000 subscribers. Also, drop a like. We only got 3 more games for the NFL season. It's completely over. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. As you can see, player props are my specialty here. So we got another player prop for this game. Spreads and over-unders not necessarily my specialty, but we're going to keep getting after it, still see what we can do. Last week in the divisional round, 3-3 overall, 3-1 on player props, 0-2 on spread and over-under picks. If you want to check out, we have an entirely separate video for 49ers versus Rams. You can check that out, is linked down below. We have another player prop, we have another spread or over-under pick, and same game parlay in that one. So definitely go check it out. It's the exact same format as this one. So let's get into it. If you want to hear us talk a little bit more about the game a little bit more in depth, you can listen to our weekly podcast. We have it timestamped down below. Well, in the podcast, that is. It is linked down below as well. Let's waste no more time. Get into my favorite player prop of this game. Drum roll, please. CJ Uzomah over 33.5 receiving yards, -110 on Caesars. Look, I like this line up to 37.5 receiving yards. Found the best line on Caesars at the moment of recording, and I like this one. Now, Uzomah has been a pretty big part of the Bengals offense all season long, but really as of late, he's been really cranking it up. Now, with the emergence of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase connection, I mean, let's be honest, that connection ridiculous just so early into both their NFL campaigns, obviously played together at LSU. Now, CJ still has shown a good connection with Joe Burrow, and that's awesome because so far through 2 games in the playoffs, Uzomah, 7 receptions for 71 yards last week against the Titans and 6 for 64 against the Raiders in wildcard weekend. Now, look at the Raiders. Let's talk about both those 2 matchups. Now, the Raiders were a team that allowed the 8th most receiving yards to tight ends. So they allowed a total of 1,018 to tight ends. So a pretty good matchup for CJ. Now, the Titans, on the other hand, who they played last week, where he still had 71 receiving yards, they were not a great matchup. They actually allowed the 5th fewest receiving yards all season long to tight end, just 612. And so the 400-yard difference didn't make a difference to CJ because he just went and feasted on both those teams, easily crushing this over. Now, the Chiefs, much closer to the Raiders in terms of defense. They've allowed 897 receiving yards to tight ends, pretty far down the pack of in terms of on the season. And look, there's a big injury that we have to talk about. Tyrann Mathieu, the starting safety for the Chiefs, could be out this game as he is in concussion protocol. Left that Bills game last week and didn't play the majority of the second half. Now we look at it. I don't necessarily know if he plays. I'm going to assume he plays, but if he doesn't play, even better because Daniel Sorensen will play more minutes. And no offense to him, Daniel Sorensen is not it. Now Uzomah, like any other wide receiver or tight end, he's going to show better yards and he could do much better when he sees the ball. And he's been seeing the ball a lot. Over his last 7 games, here are his targets. He's seen 6, 4, 7, 6, 6, and 8 targets in his last 7 games. So 6 plus in 6 of those 7, and that included 6 and 8 targets so far in the postseason. Now, obviously, he's gonna do better if he sees more targets. It's gonna be hard for him to hit this over if he doesn't see any targets. That doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that. But look, I want to consider a success rate when he just sees 5 targets. Obviously, he's seen 6 plus in both postseason games and 6 plus in 6 of his last 7. Let's just take it below and go to just 5 targets. In his last 25 career games with 5 plus targets, he's hit this over in 16 of them, 64% of them, and that included 4 of the last 5 games that he has seen that amount of targets. He's gone over this since December. So I also want to consider, well, he's taking on the Chiefs. So how do tight ends face against them? Now, we already talked about them. They've allowed close to the top of the league in terms of receiving yards to opposing tight ends. And 18 of the last 25 tight ends to see 5 or more targets have hit this over. That includes a lot of guys this season. Now, we obviously know they're going to have such a focus on Jamar Chase, and that's why I think this comes down to the last couple notes. Now, obviously, CJ Uzomah just had 4 receptions, 6 targets, and 32 yards, finished a 2 yards short of what we needed against the Chiefs just a couple weeks back. I think he gets over the hump today. Now, I think this comes down to last couple notes. Number 1, you saw the Chiefs and Bengals. They played a couple weeks ago. Jamar Chase, he had a field day. 266 receiving yards. Hard to really play a better game than that. He was unstoppable. And I imagine the Chiefs put all the defensive focus they can on Jamar Chase because he single-handedly basically beat them. Him and Joe Burrow just said, you know what, we're just playing backyard catch out here. They just absolutely abused them. While we saw them do pretty well against Diggs, my second point is that we saw my fellow UCF alumni, the pennant right there, Gabriel Davis, had a day against this Chiefs defense. 8 receptions, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns, first wide receiver ever for 4 touchdowns in the postseason. He had a great day. And the majority, if you saw, he had that long catch, 75-yarder, but a lot of his catches are right down the seams. Well, CJ Uzomah is the guy that runs those routes. Mostly Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside. CJ Uzomah going down the middle. Then we got Tyler Boyd coming at just sitting there at 3 yards. But either way, you could look at last week's Dawson Knox only had 2 receptions for 9 yards, the tight end for the Bills. Not really concerned about that. It was a big Gabriel Davis game. I think CJ Uzomah has a pretty good game today. Plus, we look at the number 3, my final point. The Bengals offensive line just gave up 9 sacks. They can't do worse than that. But still, even if they don't have don't get good pressure for Mr. Joe Burrow, should be dumping it off to CJ, and he should get some easy targets. Taking CJ, I think he has a great game. On Sunday, we're taking us over 33.5 receiving yards. So let's move on to my spread pick when we're getting the same game parlay. Taking the Chiefs, minus the 7 points, minus 110 on FanDuel. Now, I've gone back and forth in terms of which side I want to lean on this one. And I talked about leaning the Bengals on the podcast. I know Logan's on the Bengals, and I love the Bengals, but I take the Chiefs here for a couple reasons. Number one, Chiefs have been here before. They've been in the AFC Conference Championship, 4 straight years? I mean, they've been dominant. And look, experience matters in these games. Now, Joe Burrow, he's got all the confidence in the world. So does Evan McPherson, a legend. But still, I think this comes down to experience, and I think the Chiefs can cover this. Now, number two, these two teams have played a lot of different competition. Obviously, you look at the Chiefs. Now you look at them, they played the Steelers opening round. That's basically like a bye week. But the second, they just played the Bills, one of the best teams in the NFL. Sorry, so stuck on NBA videos. But still, you look at them. Now you look at the Bengals. Sure, they beat the Raiders at home, but they just played Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. And while Titans were the number 1 seed, let's be honest, they played Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill. A lot bigger tasks on their hands as they have to guard and stop Patrick Mahomes. Now, it's a much harder test than those previous 2 quarterbacks, and I just think at Arrowhead Stadium, one of the toughest places to play, I think the Chiefs defense will just be able to get after Joe Burrow, force maybe a turnover or 2, and look, I just don't think they'll be able to stop this Chiefs offense. So I like the Chiefs to cover this one. You obviously look at it, the Bengals defense does deserve a little bit more credit than they really get. The defense has been very underappreciated all season long. The Chiefs defense also underappreciated. They played much better at home. Granted, last week I don't know where they were at, but still, I trust Andy Reid a lot more than I trust Zach Taylor, and a guy that's played a lot more postseason games than Mr. Zach Taylor. So I love the Bengals. If they win, won't even be mad. I love them, and I would love for them to continue. The Chiefs are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games at home. The Bengals are 6-0 in their last 6 games overall against the spread. So something's got to give here. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus the points. We look at the last time these two teams played. Obviously, the Bengals won outright. Chiefs were on the road in that one. They were 3.5-point favorites. Look, the sportsbooks clearly respect the Chiefs a little bit more, give them the 7-point line, a full touchdown in an AFC Conference Championship game. There's a reason behind it, so I'll take the Chiefs minus the 7 points. Now let's get on to a same game parlay, 4 legs plus 1,400 odds. Mahomes 250 plus passing yards, Burrow 250 plus passing yards, CJ Uzomah anytime touchdown, and Byron Pringle anytime touchdown. Now, this is on FanDuel. If you want to use our link to sign up for FanDuel, it's down below, dimers.com/COS. Go check it out. Now, Burrow and Mahomes, the 250 apiece. Hopefully, those are easy legs to get down. Both of them have pretty bad odds in terms of each of them hitting, in terms of each of them not hitting. So I think both of them got a good chance. Now, the value comes in CJ Uzomah and Byron Pringle, a complete dart throw, but look, I already like CJ, so I'm going to go over in receiving yards. Might as well throw a touchdown on there, too. He scored the opening week against the Raiders. I think it was the first touchdown in that game. So, CJ, he should have a pretty good matchup. Can't imagine the Chiefs defense lets Jamar Chase have a field day. If they do, then they probably should cover this game. But I think CJ Uzomah getting into the end zone. And Byron Pringle, we talk about this Bengals defense, going to focus heavily on stopping Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you, hey, probably should stop those 2 guys. I think Byron Pringle sneaks in. He's had a touchdown in both games so far in the postseason, and who knows? He could get another one. He's been obviously a trusted target for Pat Mahomes. We could just see him sneaking around in the back of the end zone. I just love Byron Pringle. Probably just love saying the name personally. So I like those 4 legs. Mahomes 250, Burrow 250, and CJ Uzomah and Byron Pringle anytime touchdown. 4 legs plus 1,400. Don't put a full unit on it. Just sprinkle on it. Have something fun to watch for and to root for. So I'm going to rooting for that. So we're rooting for that. The Chiefs minus 7 and CJ Uzomah over 33.5 receiving yards. Good luck on your favorite Sunday plays. Let me know down below what you guys are playing. If you want to check out my 49ers versus Rams bets, it should be on the screen right now, or it's going to be live very shortly. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This has been Austin, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.